Hey everyone, this is Kieran, and you just entered the Maelstrom. Today's video will be focused on the platypus-like monster, the Tetranadon, which I'll refer to as the Tetra going forward. So let's just jump right into it. Classified as an amphibian, the big-bellied Tetra is a newcomer to the Monster Hunter series. The first time I saw the Tetra, I thought I was playing a Pokemon game, as this thing reminds me a lot of the Ludicolo. Just slap a hat on him and you see the resemblance, right? Anyway, with a threat level of 2 stars, the Tetra is not much of a threat and is a good opponent for target practice with that big body. Looking at the Tetra's parts, we have the head, neck, torso, foreleg, back, hind leg, and tail to target. With the exception of its neck and back, all of Tetra's parts are breakable. Oh, and the tail doesn't sever, so don't have your hopes up trying to lop that thing off. To maximize damage, the hunter should focus their attacks on Tetra's head across all weapon types, followed by the neck and foreleg. In terms of elemental damage, the Tetra is most susceptible to lightning, and to a lesser degree, fire, ice, and dragon. Also be aware that the Tetra's attacks may leave you with water blight, which slows down your stamina recovery. When it comes to inflicting ailments on the Tetra, you'll be most successful with paralysis, blast, and thunder blight, while all other ailments are effective at 1 star. Alright, time to check out the Tetra's moveset. Before we begin, I need to mention that the Tetra has 2 forms it switches between. Its regular form and its big belly form, where the moves it uses changes slightly from its regular form. You can't miss it when the Tetra goes into its other form, as his belly is just simply too big to miss. Start off, the Tetra has your standard bite and slap attacks. They're not particularly dangerous moves, as the setup is very apparent and slow, so they can be easily avoided. The setup for the bite is the Tetra will bring its head back with its mouth wide open before chomping down on the hunter. The slap is similar in that it winds its head back as well as one arm before thrusting it forward towards the hunter. Of course, with that big belly of his, the Tetra must have a belly flop attack. It will only do this in its big belly form, and the setup to watch out for is that the Tetra will look like it's kind of sitting and slowly sink downwards like it's gathering itself before springing up with its giant belly and flopping it over the hunter. The next move we are looking at is the jump slam, where the Tetra leaps high up into the air and comes thundering down on the hunter. The setup to watch out for is the Tetra will brace itself with both its arms to its side and start crouching before leaping into the air. One tip I read is to pay attention to the shadow on the ground to avoid the beast when it comes down. Another common move that the Tetra does is a clap. The setup to this starts out similar to the jump slam, where the Tetra will have both its arms to its side before quickly leaning back with its arms wide open and falling forward with a clap. The move doesn't do a lot of damage when it lands, but it does stun you, which leaves you wide open for some of Tetra's more devastating moves. The Tetra also loves to charge at the hunter, both in its regular as well as its big belly form. In its regular form, the Tetra will lean back to gather itself, then charge forward and appears to be alternating its paws in almost a forward slapping motion a la a sumo wrestler. The move travels a small distance when compared to the charge it does in its big belly form. The Tetra will be upright and then lean back before waddling left and right across the field. This move covers a long distance, and once it waddles for enough, it will change direction and waddle some more. I mentioned that the Tetra looked like a sumo wrestler in its previous move. Well, I'm convinced that he's partially modeled after one, as the Tetra also has a stomp move that looks a lot like something a sumo wrestler would do. The Tetra will perform this move both in its normal state as well as its big belly form. In its normal state, the Tetra will be on all fours and slowly lift one side of its paws and legs before stomping down and then doing the same on the other side. In big belly mode, the Tetra will slowly lift one of its legs up high before stomping down hard to the ground and causing a shockwave of earth to shoot from the ground. Either way, both moves are fairly slow when it's set up, with the big belly version taking a lot more time, so hunters have plenty of time to avoid this move. Next up, the Tetra will step back, turn its body, and reach into the ground to scoop some dirt and more rocks, and even water at times, to hurl at the hunter. It will do this twice, one on each side of its body. I've only seen him do this in his big belly form, so you can rest easy when he's in his regular mode. I'm also going to mention a rare move that the Tetra has. It digs into the ground and pulls out a giant rock, which he will roll along the ground to attack the hunter with. It's a rare move, and you'll recognize it when he starts digging into the ground, but it does pack a punch if you get hit by it, so do be careful of this move. As the Tetra is an aquatic monster, it only makes sense that he has some sort of water attack. When you see the Tetra puff up its belly and water begins splashing around its mouth, be prepared for it to spit out water in one of three ways. The first is a big blob of water forward at the hunter, which travels a medium distance. The next one is similar to the previous one, but instead of one big blob, the Tetra will spit out multiple smaller blobs of water, which almost floats in midair before slowly dropping to the ground a short distance in front of the Tetra. Finally, the Tetra may fire a stream of water instead of blobs at the hunter. It will fire the stream forward, then move it from side to side until it runs out of water and returns to its normal form. Finally, the Tetra may perform two combo moves on the hunter. It uses these quite often, so you need to pay attention to the setups to avoid being hit by them. The first of the combo moves is the Bite and Toss attack. The name describes the move perfectly, as the Tetra will take a step back, tilt its head slightly with its giant duckbill mouth open before engulfing the hunter and spitting you back out into the air. It ends off this move with a big belly flop, but once you're in the air, there's plenty of time to wire bug away, so the belly flop rarely lands. Lastly, the other pin attack the Tetra performs is what I call the belly combo. That's because the Tetra will open its arms and mouth while puffing its belly forward. It will then close those paws on the hunter, grabbing him and then tossing him to the ground. It will then leap into the air and try to land a big slam that breaks the ground. Again, there's plenty of time to wire dash away once it throws you on the ground, so the jump slam usually doesn't land. However, the grab and throw does do a bit of damage on its own, so when you see the Tetra with its arms and mouth wide open, get out of there. Well, that does it for our discussion about the imitation Ludicolo. With its slow moves, the Tetra is not a tough hunt by any means, but it can and has landed some big blows, especially in Master Rank. Regardless, the monster does look pretty cool, and its unique moveset make it a pretty fun monster to hunt. I hope this video provided a good introduction to the monster, and as always, please leave a like and consider subscribing to the channel if you enjoyed the video. It's time to exit the maelstrom, but remember to come back and enter the maelstrom next time. This is Kieran, signing off.